edition of Colonel Roxanne Towner-Watkins and War Hamster Brady talking about the Fabian Society. And today we're going to focus on the London School of Economics. How are you doing today, Brady?
Doing good. Excited to get a little wonky on economics today. We've been this show is just going to completely fall right into our timeline and just recognize the same old patterns. Are you familiar with GAD-SAD?
I've heard of it.
Well, I'm going to show you something real quick because it kind of popped up, and see if I can find it. He recently wrote this book called Suicidal Empathy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Look at the cover, right? Free the wolves. Wolf in sheep's clothing. So we've been talking about with the Fabians is they've got this egalitarian save the world mentality by any means necessary. Who cares how many rights we have to step on to do it? That's what GAD-SAD's book is about, is suicidal empathy. That's exactly what we've been talking about. And, he's, I'm going to play a quick clip from him, if you don't mind, just to get started.
Not at all.
You'll understand why. Oops. I got to.
Do you have it up? Do we have to remove this one and then you put it back up? Because all I'm seeing is that cover.
Evil society around the corner, I will have existential glee. And so I think that's why there is that reflex in many of these totalitarian ideologies to erase everything that came before you. Conservative consistently score high.
So what he's talking about is unicornia. And basically that's why the left gets so triggered when you challenge their worldviews. And that's what we've seen play out. But GAD-SAD's a pretty sharp guy. And his interview showed up in our timeline. I thought it was pertinent to what we've been talking about. It
definitely is.
I also, you know what, I want to share one more little quick video with you because when I was looking for videos in the London School of Economics, there's a debate at the London School of Economics. And he talks about, it does a pretty good way of setting us up. So what we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
Let me know when that's up.
It's up.
Job to try and persuade you, together with my colleague, Dr. Harjun Chang, of the truth of this proposition that there is too much maths and too little history in economics as it's currently taught and conceived. Well, let's start off with an obvious question. Why do people study economics? Basically to understand how economies work. And there are two different ways of understanding that. I mean, there's maths and there's history. And they stand at opposite poles in terms of epistemology. Let's take maths first. First, two things that maths tries to do, claims to do. First of all, it's concerned with propositions that are necessarily true. That is, it's a branch of logic. But secondly, maths is concerned with propositions that can be proved. And economists really endorse maths in the second sense, that is for generating provable propositions. But because the social system to which they apply maths is so complex, too complex to obtain reliable proofs, they're tempted by the first, or what I would call the Platonic view of the subject.
So what he's talking about there is really, if you look at the founding principles, which we'll get into, of the London School of Economics, it's important to note it's not the London School of Economics, it's the London School of Economics and Political Science.
Yes.
To economists, the real world is often a special case exception scenario. They're trying to use macroeconomics and formulas to describe human behavior, and we are far too complex. The smartest formula for doing this is a free market system where there are billions of decisions made on it every single second about what to buy, what not to buy. That's how economics should be done. And they're trying to micromanage it and trying to calculate a formula for something that cannot be calculated.
Because they want to control economics. They don't want economics to be a free market type event, because behind all of this is the desire to control people.
It's exactly right. And that probably tees you up for that opening quote you were going to read, because.
So this is a quote from Bernard Shaw. Our propaganda is one of permeating. We urge our members to join the liberal and radical associations in their district, or if they prefer it, the conservative associations, meaning all sides. We permeate the party organizations and pulled all strings we could lay our hands on with the utmost adroitness and energy. And we succeeded so well that in 1888, we gained the solid advantage of a progressive majority full of ideas that would never have come into their heads had not the Fabians put them there.
Infiltrate, and they're playing both sides of the aisle. Where have we seen that before? We talked about that with Skull and Bones, how they didn't go to one party or the other, they went to both.
Correct.
And that ties into your strategy of tension.
It does. And it also, which we will get to later, ties into that thing called the third way, where you control this side in the strategy of tension, and you push people into a third way.
All to implement their globo homo one world government. Now with that, I need to give a shout out to our good friend Seaweed Sally, who came up with a new term for us. She coined the term Homo Fabian.
Yes.
I love it.
Me too.
And it's going to permeate. We talked about last week, a lot of these Fabians were into homoeroticism and stuff like that. So it just fits so perfect.
It does.
Great job, Seaweed Sally. Thank you. I've been laughing about that ever since I read it. All right, so let's get into the London School of Economics. Founded in 1895 by Fabian socialists, the Webbs, Graham Wallas, and of course, George Bernard Shaw were the five main founders. And again, it is called the LSE, London School of Economics, but the real name says London School of Economics and Political Science, which is an oxymoron. Politics is the absolute opposite of science. All right, it's funded by an initial £20,000 bequest from the estate of a Fabian by the name of Henry Hunt Hutchinson, Triple H, for you wrestling fans out there. Started out in just 3 classrooms, and it is definitely not in the city of London. And it now has grown to look something like this. That is your London School of Economics, everybody. Pretty grandiose building, would you not say?
Yes.
So it started out really tiny and would grow over time. You've got some early statistics?
Yeah. Let me get back up there. So the London School of Economics, after you mentioned the Henry Hunt Hutchinson, in 1905 through 1906, there were 181 postgraduates in the whole of England and Wales. 27 of them were at Oxford. 36 of them were at Cambridge. 49 of them at other universities throughout those 2 locations. And 69 of them stayed on the staff of the London School of Economics. Within its first decade, the school had become established as a center of research. And then, of course, to me, the big hitting home was that they established the British Library of Political and Economic Science. Most of the stuff in there was written by the people we've covered in the last several shows that were their philosophical underpinnings, but also themselves in the first 15 years that they were established. So it is a self-licking ice cream cone here.
Yeah, we're going to see more of that today. So keep that notion in terms. It has grown, obviously, since then. As of 2024, the enrollment was about 13,000 students. The majority are postgraduate students. Over 2/3 of the students are from outside the United Kingdom. So they're taking their ideas, educating people, and then sending them out in the world to spread. It is an incubation for Fabian socialism.
Yeah, I saw an article that was dated like 2 years ago that said 70%, because of COVID and stuff like that, shut down a lot of foreigners coming into England, that 70% of their student body during that period of time were foreigners.
Yeah, that sounds like that's pretty much still the case around 2024.
Yeah.
They've, then the other major emergency that's funny is that, their campus is a place called Clare Market and Houghton Street in a neighborhood called Westminster, surrounded by a lot of very notable government buildings, etc. It is right in the heart of London academic power. During World War II, they actually left London to escape the bombing and took residence at Cambridge. And we'll talk more about the Cambridge connection later. I gave you the endowment, 6th largest of any United Kingdom university, and its annual income is about £550 million. So it's pretty legitimate. They're, let me pull this up on screen, a little more symbolism for you. Their emblem, or their coat of arms, the beaver is their mascot. Beavers are known for building dams and working hard. It's supposed to symbolize industriousness and constructiveness. It's supposed to symbolize foresight and social habits because they live in communities and plan ahead. That is a Fabian for you, the beaver. It's also supposed to symbolize, the logo, from the first prospectus. This saying, Rerum cognoscere caucus, means to understand the causes of things. And that's from Virgil's Georgics. It encapsulated their scientific goal of putting scientific empirical investigation into society's problems. They want to quantify everything and then put a mathematical formula to predict and conduct human behavior. From their perspectives, their special aim, the study and investigation of the concrete facts of industrial life. Remember, this is post-industrial revolution, where the big cause is the wealth disparity gap that came out of the industrial revolution, and they were always justifying whatever they wanted to do because they wanted to help the poor. They were trying to fight injustice in their minds. So in the concrete...
Go ahead. I have... Somebody just said in the comments, Oregon is the beaver steak. And Oregon's probably the most Fabian of all. Sorry.
Partially true. So look at the concrete facts of industrial life and the actual working of economic and political relations as they exist or have existed in the United Kingdom and in foreign countries. Their focus was on applied social sciences, economics, political science, and research to inform public policy and to promote, quote unquote, the betterment of society. Now, here's something positive about the London School of Economics. They have what's called a non-dogmatic approach. Now, even though the founders are Fabians, the school was very open to open inquiry, and that allowed diverse thinkers like Friedrich Hayek to actually teach there for 20 years and thrive alongside socialists. So it was a very healthy academic atmosphere to be around. It was not just, you'll be socialist, damn it, or leave. We'll talk more about Hayek much later.
Well, it's also important to note that during this period of time that we're talking about, you had the rise of the roundtable movement with the Milners, and they were going back to the strategy of tension. They were positioned where supposedly the roundtable movement were on the right side of this movement, and the Fabians obviously were labeled at the time as the new left. And you had these two, and basically there's a lot of overlap that most people don't realize. And so they were formulating this entire control mechanism as a part of all of this.
Yeah, at the same time, the same thing's going on in America. You've got these robber barons from the Gilded Age, and they are funding the universities where these Fabian ideas are being injected into our youth. Exact same things going on. Yeah. And most of those robber barons would not be considered left-wing.
Correct.
All right, so the London School of Economics would formally join the University of London in the year 1900. They first started awarding degrees in its own name in 1901. They're giving out bachelor's of sciences and doctors of sciences in economics. And of note, these were the very first university degrees dedicated to the social sciences. You got something on 1905?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't put them in that order. Go ahead. I'll find it.
All right. The London School of Economics would not become a university in its own right until until 2022. Some interesting thing with British law about mergers and stuff like that, but they were always roughly associated with the University of London. Let's take a look at their. Let's take a look at the London School of Economics website.
Okay.
Bear with me. I got it right here. I love going to their websites. They tell us so much about themselves.
They do.
All right. Here's today's London School of Economics and Political Science. What's their latest news? Buy less campaigns don't work. Social media bans risk excluding children from important opportunities rather than tackling harms, a new report finds, which means you should let your kids get on social media. Global migration per year has nearly tripled since 2000, you think? Here's one I like. Upcoming events. Oh, the politics of climate change. Yeah, London School of Economics is all over creating papers about climate change to justify, bringing in their one world order. I'd say only probably close to half of all the educational work, printed material comes from the London School of Economics or people that are alumni from there. Mobilizing investment for a sustainable planet. Oh, the artist formerly known as climate change. So that's what they're basically studying this spring. You go to the About page. They got all kinds of departments: accounting, anthropology. Oh, something on climate change here. Geography and environment. What's that have to do with economics?
Everything. You want to control it all.
Yeah, it's true. There's a few other fun things to see on here. Research centers. So what you see in here is it really is an institution. It deserves respect. But the self-licking ice cream cone, what they'll do is they'll create a department and then hire people to research what they wanted them to conclude before they ever open the department. And that'll justify a political action, which they can implement in the United Kingdom or in the United Nations or anywhere else in the world. And that's why they open their doors to so many people from around the world. Because once they get out of the London School of Economics, that's a really highly regarded degree, and they get themselves into the great bureaucratic positions, whether as a technocrat or a politician or as a business leader. But they've got all these ideas permeating their brain. So it's a wonderful strategy if you want to create your one world government on an evolutionary standpoint, and you just basically change values and human knowledge from within.
It's a feeder system.
Yeah, it really is. And of course, it feeds into other schools as well, because the London School of Economics degree gets you teaching in the Ivy League.
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about this later on, but as early as 1895, it was already working closely with Oxford's and the Rhodes Scholars to set up so they kind of basically like overlapped each other. There were all kinds of research overlap during that time. Yeah.
When you start combining politics with academic study, you've got a little bit of an issue, and then try to call it science. Now, that is a pure technocratic definition, and that basically is ruled by experts. And the first really successful attempt at a technocratic government was known as the Nazis. Yeah, when the ends justify the means, there is no limit to what you'll do to human beings.
And again, we probably should foot stomp the political science piece of this, because within a few years of creating the London School of Economics, they created the Labour Party. The Labour Party was their kind of incubator for melding the London School of Economics into a political force. And of course, then you have politics, like you were saying, the feeder system all over the world. Politicians in all of world governments are in this feeder system.
Yeah, and especially in the United Kingdom. And we start going into the notable alumni of the London School of Economics, you're going to find that basically the entire Labour Party is LSE. They're all beavers. They are all beavers. Or shall we call them Homo Fabians?
Yeah.
Just to make a special distinction, not all London School of Economics people were Fabians, but the influence is always there. And they founded it for a specific reason. So let's talk about why they founded it. How do they teach? They teach like a broad, rigorous, largely mainstream neoclassical economics curriculum. That's a complimentary sentence, and it's probably true. You actually probably can get a good education there, and if you can avoid the brainwashing. They emphasize quantitative methods, empirical analysis, and policy applications. They're in microeconomics, which is stuff like consumer theory, firm behavior, market structures, game theory, behavioral economics, which is a term I got a problem with. They're in macroeconomics, which is more stuff like GDP growth, business cycles, monetary fiscal policy, and international trade. And then, of course, there's econometrics, which is a new field of study. I have a nephew getting a doctorate in that at Notre Dame right this second. And I'm furious at him for going into that field, because the real world will always be an exception to econometrics. They've got these great data, all the numbers in the world, and they work wonderful on a computer and in the economics laboratory. They just don't apply to the real world at all, because human beings are unpredictable. And we change our minds. You can't tell us what we're going to want to buy a year from now. It doesn't work that way. But
the purpose of this is to not only influence the direction, but to it goes back to almost to that predictive modeling, where they firmly believe that if they can create these models that predict a particular thing, that then they have the propaganda arm from the quote I just read to then push people into line with their given theory.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how powerful artificial intelligence gets, you'll still never be smart enough to predict human behavior. And that's why I love humanity for that reason.
Yeah.
Who would want to be such a drone that, and that's what they want. That's what socialism has always been, is to put us into worker drones. We saw it during COVID too. That was actual physical manifestation of all these ideas, how they can order society and separate us into classes.
Correct.
Some of the specialties that develop out of their different schools, and the terminology is really important, because they got a specialty called developmental economics. And what that basically means is third world development. we're going to apply our philosophies throughout the world, whether you want it or not. And that's how you get these United Nations programs and all these different NGOs running around the world, spitting out Fabian ideas about.
You know, the best example for anybody that's interested in this, that wants to go look, was the Chicago boys that were deployed to Chile after the CIA overthrew the Chilean government. And Chicago is a focal point for the Fabians from the very beginning when it came into the United States. It found a foothold in Chicago at the University of Chicago. And who did Kissinger deploy to remake their economy in Chile to be a Western influenced, Fabian influence, was the Chicago boys from Chicago. There was a whole team of economists that went down there to mold that government. It is a classic example of what Brady just said.
And we can do we'll probably do an entire show on the University of Chicago economics. We talked about the founding way back when, but yeah. All right, some of the other specialties. They got monetary economics. Makes perfect sense. That's basically central banking. So you're going to find in almost every central bank in the world, you're going to find the London footprints of the London School of Economics. So that includes the U.S. Federal Reserve, and we'll get to that. They have something called public economics. One of the first things they wanted to do with Fabianism was to socialize the municipalities. They wanted basically to be in charge of who delivers your water, who picks up your trash, all that stuff that had to be socialized. It couldn't be a free market system. So that became public economics. And if you're running for, you're on city council, and you're going to get coached by the NGOs following Fabian and London School of Economics teaching about how to run your city. And that's why we see this Agenda 21 stuff in every county in America now. This is climate change BS that came through the same route. Our public servants, our civil servants, are completely brainwashed into this type of public economics.
Which was one of their initial goals, is permeating the government at all levels, as well as the political parties, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And of course, the next one on my list feeds right into that, exactly what we just said, labor economics.
Yep.
And that's why they invented the concept of, what was the word we used last week? Beatrice Webb invented collective bargaining. Thank you. That's labor economics, which they then would apply all over the world if they wanted to, I don't know, do a little land and resource grab in a third world country. What better way to get some unrest? Does that kind of remind you a little bit about the regime change stuff that CIA has been doing?
Yeah.
Think they work hand in hand? And then there's my favorite, of course, is environmental economics, because the planet needs to be, guided by economic theory. Yeah. And you can see the Fabian influences: state intervention on public ownership, expert-driven administrations, and collectivism with democratic means. All the theories they're teaching there. Anything you want to add before we go into the notable alumni?
Well, I did want to, let's see. I got that one. We did the Shaw thing. Yeah. So I did want to just give an example of the permeation of this. In 1931, they basically took this model and implanted it in Canada. They have a corresponding vehicle in New Zealand and Australia because this was a Commonwealth project, and stealthily they planted it here as well. But in particular, they actually set up a thing called the Fabian Society of Canada. It was created by 5 Rhodes Scholars, and it was dubbed the League of Social Reconstruction. How Fabian. And it was the original introduction into Canada of a pro-eugenics political party called Cooperative Commonwealth Federation in 1932. And that's what eventually led to, through gradualism, to the MAID program, where they're now just killing people in Canada. So they eventually changed their name to NDP in 1961. But many of their people that were in it, you see the same model into government, into the municipalities, government, and into the colleges, into the political system, and all those different aspects.
Yeah, Rob just stole what I was going to say in the Rob 8331. Right after that, Elon Musk's grandfather would become the head of the Technocratic Party of Canada. So when Elon was buying Twitter, I did a presentation on that whole proposed sale, and I went deep into the family history, stuff like that. Rob also said something interesting, and he says all government employees and pensioners are Fabian by proxy. They must maintain the equity stripping. That is 100% correct. That's why all the government employees are voting Democrats. Democrats are Fabians at this point. They weren't always, but they are at this point. And they've got a vested interest in cradle to grave, which is something we're going to talk about here. That's part of the philosophy behind these Fabian economics, is cradle to grave, everything. We'll get to that.
The same thing with the unions.
Yeah, and school teachers. This is a
yes,
and they don't even have to pay for their army, because we pay for them.
Yes,
our tax dollars to basically steal our country. That's exactly what they've implemented.
Yes.
That's why Washington, D.C. should never have a district court. You'll never get justice there. All right. Oh, we also, someone who said hello from Amsterdam. So good to get some more international representation in here. I forgot. Yep. I can't see who there was, but hey, welcome. I like the Dutch people. All right. Notable alumni. 17 current United Kingdom members of the House of Commons today are from London School of Economics. Notable is a gentleman by the name of Ed Miliband. You're familiar with him, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He was the former leader of the Labour Party and the Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero. I've talked about net zero banking. Current Prime Minister of Canada was one of the big net zero banking things, the Net Zero Banking Alliance. Zero carbon they're talking about. This goes along with your digital currency. They wanted the technocrats in America in the 30s. They wanted to use energy as a point of commerce. So, we wouldn't use money. The experts would determine who got which amount of energy. And that's, if you didn't behave, you'd get less energy. If you were favored, you'd get more. This is the entire concept of net zero. And this is Miliband, London School of Economics, who's practically, one of the biggest names in England. So that's current members of House of Commons. He's still there. You've got 27 current members of the House of Lords. That's an awful lot of influence from one economic school in the Parliament of the, one of the, right now, the 7th biggest economy in the world, or they've got back up to number 5, right around there. And what kind of policies are they going to implement? You think they're going to implement a Brexit? Oh, hell no. They want globalism. And the good thing to see is that it looks like Keir Starmer's entire cabinet is deserting him. So I don't do British politics. I don't know it well enough. I don't live there, but I do know what I'd like to see the Labour Party out of power.
Well, let's look at we didn't rehearse this ahead of time, but are you going to talk about the end of Barack Obama's 2016 and what it looked like with the London School of Economics? We
will get to there.
Okay.
Well, Obama does come up.
Okay.
Very shortly, to be honest with you. Well, we've got some notable Americans from London School of London School of Economics. I pulled this off alphabetically and just pulled the ones that jumped off the page at me. First one, of course, is Michael Chertoff, who was the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security under George W. Bush. And
9/11.
He was also an Attorney General. Yeah, exactly. He's also Attorney General under George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. All right, everybody, brace yourself for the next notable American. Seriously, brace yourselves, because I'm about to scare you. This was also an alumni of the London School of Economics.
I know who it's going to be.
Rosa DeLorean. That's an embarrassment. All right, get her off the screen.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. Should we take a break and wash our eyes out? My God, that witch. She is.
I just see the witch on The Wizard of Oz every time I see her.
She's amazing. It's an embarrassment. There's another alumni named Leandra English, who's the deputy director of Liz Warren's Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, basically the shakedown organization. London School of Economics. We have an Edward Fielner, who, there's a lot of these London School of Economics are pretty high up on the think tanks and the institutions. So this guy was a president of the Heritage Foundation think tank. And these think tanks.
They're on both sides of the aisle?
Say again?
You mean they're on both sides of the aisle?
Of course they are. wherever we encountered that. But this is so important because these think tanks are writing these position papers that our politicians, they're not smart enough to think for themselves, go out and implement. And of course, they get regurgitated by our, docile media, and it becomes considered, it's settled science, and it's not. It's engineered.
Not docile, complicit. Get your terminology correct.
Thank you. Get a little hotter under the collar talk about this than I expected. It's so pervasive. It's just in every nook and cranny of society, and it never stops gnawing away. It's got to be ripped apart. Okay, we got Eric Garcetti, former mayor of Los Angeles, London School of Economics, because of course. Bruce Katz, vice president, Brookings Institution. We have Vanessa Carey, the daughter of John Kerry. Wonder if she's going to get into politics anytime soon. Bill Clinton's favorite, Monica Lewinsky, London School of Economics.
Yep.
Should I make a joke?
Go ahead.
Well, she blew her finals.
All right, that was funny.
Should have worked on that better, but here's another one. Peter Orszag, Georgetown professor and a fellow at Brookings Institution. Why is Georgetown professor so important? Because half the people that go to work get government internships come from Georgetown. It's right there in D.C.
It is also the foreign school for foreign officers and a feeding ground for the CIA.
Indeed. John Ossoff, current senator for Georgia. And I got to mention this one, David Rockefeller. We could go on for about 12 hours on him, but let's hold that off because we got a few shows that are going to be dedicated to the Rockefellers. Just know that he not only went to the London School of Economics, but talk about the funding of the London School of Economics, Colonel.
The what?
The funding, early funding from the Rothschilds and Rockefellers.
Yeah, so that was where their initial grant came, was from the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds.
Yeah. It's and there's more to that story that we'll get to. Robert Rubin, former U.S. Treasury Secretary and the director of Goldman Sachs. Now, why is that important? Because when he was Treasury Secretary, they created the concept of too big to fail banks, and Goldman Sachs got a bailout, and then he became their director. Oops, little conflict. And you want to talk about socializing profits? I'm sorry, privatizing profits and socializing losses? That's a living example of it. Robert Rubin. Bob. We've got a Rajiv Shah, who's the administrator under Obama for something known as USAID.
CIA.
Mm-hmm. Everybody here knows how bad USAID. All of our followers, I think, know that. We don't have to go into too much detail for that, do we?
No.
Okay. We've got a Sanford Ungar, or Ungar, who was a former director of Voice of America, CIA. And of course, he's a Council of Foreign Relations member. Noticing a pattern?
They're one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Paul Volcker, former chair of the Federal Reserve. You wanted to talk about the end of the Obama era of 2016, so go ahead and do that now, if you don't mind.
So the White House Chief of Staff, Deputy Chief of Staff, Budget Director, Secretary of Homeland Security, all had studied at the London School of Economics with the Secretary of State. Well, she wasn't the Secretary of State when he left, but the former, she was a person in his administration. Susan Rice was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. So there was a large presence in the White House during Obama of the London School of Economics. Are you done with the people that actually went there that you were going to talk about that were notable?
I'm done with the Americans.
Okay. You know that JFK was there, right?
His brother was.
He was.
I don't have JFK down there.
Is Kennedy? He got selected to go, and then he got sick. And his mentor, because evidently you get assigned one there, they already had documentation of who was going to be assigned to him. It was Harold Lasky.
Who's Harold Lasky, Colonel?
Harold Lasky is one of the original really bad guys that was a professor there. And he had served as the chairman of the Labor Party, which was a derivative of the Fabian Society. So yeah, he was very much, as a matter of fact, he talked a lot about Marx. That was one of his favorite subjects when he gave lectures. So there you have it.
But he never went. But his brother Joseph did go there. Yeah. All right, I got some more though.
Okay.
We're just getting started on how influential the London School of Economics is on our world. Ursula von der Leyen, the current president of the European Commission, which is the living embodiment of the Fabian dream.
Yep.
The Unicornia?
Cornucopia.
Whatever. The utopia of one world government. She's there, threatening everybody. So, of course, we've got a bunch of central bankers, everyone from Janet Yellen, Stanley Fischer. We got a Mervyn King, Bank of England. Pui Pakron, the governor of the Central Bank of Thailand, also. Of course, you got to have Nobel Prize winners. You want to talk about the self-licking ice cream cone? These are economists giving themselves awards so they get better credentials, so they can get 21 Nobel Prize winners. 16 in economics, 2 in literature, and 3 in peace. They created something called the Guy Medal, which is an award for statistics. And of course, 6 people from the London School of Economics have won Guy Medals in a field of study that they invented.
You'd think it'd be higher.
Yeah, I actually had that same thought. I don't know how long the Guy Medal's been around, but I'm pretty sure they won't be giving me one. And I'm pretty good at statistics, but no, thank you. I will not be publishing. Got some actors and musicians. Two that jumped off the page were Mick Jagger and somehow Angelina Jolie. That's a head scratcher, isn't it?
I'm telling you, these people aren't who they pretend themselves. It's like AOC graduating from Boston, which is a School of Economics, with an economics degree. They're not who they pretend to be.
And then there's others who pretend to be lawyers and probably couldn't pass a high school English test. That's a reaction to some of the people that are actually lawyers and some of their commentary on the recent Carmelo Anthony conviction.
Right.
I got into an argument, well, not an argument, discussion. Somebody was saying I forget who it was, is that one woman, the congressman from Texas, saying it wasn't a deadly weapon. Well, it killed someone, so by definition, that makes it deadly.
Yeah.
This pen is a deadly weapon if used properly. So anyway, I digress. We've had dozens of CEOs of big business, way too many to list. But the big name that screams is, of course, George Soros. And his open societies, I mean, if you want to, it's about 1 degree different than the original Fabian ideologies. George Soros said, we are not going to do a deep dive on George Soros today. Everybody knows that he's evil personified in what he's done, but we probably at some point in time in the future can do a real big dig on him. I just think it's all out there. So many people have beaten that path. But there's no upside for us doing Soros, but he was London School of Economics. Dozens of economists, of course, and economic historians work from there, which makes a lot of sense. One guy that I do like is Niall Ferguson. Have you read much of him?
Yeah.
Does pretty good work. I actually enjoy reading him. We've had a lot of judges. So how do you get from London School of Economics into the judicial branch? It's an interesting leap, huh?
No, because the politics piece of it.
Thank you. That's what we said at the very beginning.
Yeah, that's the piece that keeps getting left out.
Well, they even have it on their, hey, say LSE all over their materials.
Yes.
And it should say LSE PS.
Yes.
LSEPS, what's that stand for? LSEPS? Yeah, but the political science is a big part. I'm glad you hammered that point home.
Yep.
A couple of interesting judges jumped off the page at me. It's a judge named James Hamilton, who you probably ran into because he was on the Watergate Committee.
Yeah.
Think the Watergate Committee came up with the right conclusions?
No.
Think there's a bigger, broader international aspect to it than just spying on a campaign?
Yes.
Yeah. Another pretty well-known judge was Anthony Kennedy, who was a Supreme Court justice. All right, let's get to the heads of state. Heads of states, we would include prime ministers, presidents, some VPs, some royalty, anyone who you'd call a head of state. And I came up with 59 of them. Does that sound about right?
About, yeah.
I'm doing this alphabetically from the Wikipedia entry. So there's been 2 from Barbados, including the current Prime Minister, Mia Mottley. Sorry, everybody, no pictures on these. We've had 1 from Benin. Why did we talk about Benin recently?
I don't know why.
It was just on my radar in the last few weeks. I have to remember. I have to look it up. We've had 1 from Bulgaria. 2 from Canada, including, of course, Pierre Trudeau, the father of Justin Trudeau, the Cuban communists. And Pierre actually probably would be a communist if you asked him. And Canada, which the Colonel just mentioned, has gone a long ways towards implementing a lot of the Homo Fabian policies.
Yep.
2 from Colombia, which is interesting because one of them was Juan Manuel Santos, who was their president, I guess, from 2010 to 18. What was going on in Colombia at that point in time with the Sandinistas?
A lot. He's interesting because that was a large part of the narco trafficking escalation during the time that he was president too.
Yeah. It's also really nice to see all these elections in the Western Hemisphere have been going towards what appear to be right-wing populists. And that's been a lot of dominoes are falling in the right direction away from some of the globalists that have been in there. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with the ending of USAID.
It does not. Quit saying that. I was hoping you weren't going to say that. It has nothing to do with USAID. USAID during the entire Operation Condor put right-wing governments in all of Latin America.
Sure, they did for a while, but the last decade or two, they've been putting in globalist, global homo governments. That's been the movement. They play both sides. They always have.
But USAID has never been present and promoted an actual left-wing person that was true socialist. Never. As a matter of fact, even during the last several years from the election of Chavez up until 2019, when they tried to overthrow Maduro, all of their money went into getting rid of the socialist.
Who's in power in Brazil right now?
That was not a result of USAID.
Adjacent, at least. I mean, our entire CIA and all the whole intelligence network was working with them. They were working with our corporations to censor everyone. It's an international puppet that was put in there by the globalists.
The problem with Bolsonaro was his close proximity to Trump. That was not a true USAID push to put in a leftist. That was all in favor of getting rid of one of Trump's allies. I'm just going to push back on that. I don't have, yeah.
We'll do that debate another show because it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah. And you can find your one Grenada. Okay.
Okay, where was I? I did Colombia. We had one London School of Economics from Costa Rica, one from Denmark, and that would be.
Hold on. Okay, I have to say this about the Costa Rica one too. When was that guy in? 86 to 90. When were we doing, where was Costa Rica at in 86 to 90? It was the home station of the CIA and the DEA running the Contra operation. That was all done out of Costa Rica while that guy was in charge.
Very good. No, good. I'm glad you caught that one because I skipped over it.
Yep.
We've got one from Denmark, the current Queen Margrethe II. She's been queen since 1972. I was going to show you a picture of her, but I already scared the audience once, and I am not going to.
We've actually seen that because isn't that the one that son committed suicide or something? Something happened to the son, and her picture was all over social media, and I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, go ahead.
I shouldn't make fun of older people, but. All right, we've got one from Dominica, one from Fiji, one from Finland, including the current president, Alexander Stubb, who was also the former prime minister in 2014 to 15. Finland's been making some noise on the international political stage lately, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they're being run by an alumni of the London School of Economics. Interesting.
Yes.
We got one from Germany, and it was Heinrich Brüning, Chancellor. He's Heinrich Brüning, who's the Chancellor from 1930 to 1932. Anything going on in Germany around then?
The rise of Hitler?
Yep, the Weimar Republic is about to implode. Runaway inflation. Should we talk about? Yeah, we're going to talk. Well, we'll talk about that more next week.
Okay.
I want to say is the actual cause of the Great Depression. We'll get into that. So just remember, Heinrich Brüning was chancellor in 1930. We've had 3 London School of Economics alumni from Ghana. You had Nkrumah from 1960 to 66, Lennon from 79 to 81, and John Alton Mills in 2009. Any of those time periods mean anything in the history of Ghana, Colonel?
So the Kanami guy was instrumental for helping the CIA overthrow a whole bunch of governments around that area.
Indeed. It's nice to have a friendly president, huh?
Yes.
We've got a chief minister from Gibraltar. 2 London School of Economics alumni have been prime ministers of Greece, including George Papandreou, however you say his name, who was the prime minister from 2009 to 2011. Why is that so important? Great financial crisis. Greek had to get their bailout. And go, what was the word? I don't know. Greece went broke.
Yeah. But also, if you look into George's history, his dad was critical during the multiple CIA coups in Greece during the early period, like in the late 1940s and 50s, when they did the overthrow and they had that council of colonels. His dad was intimately involved in all of that, and not as necessarily a bad guy, but he was very involved in it. George was obviously born during that time period, because it says it was born in 52. But his family has been involved in Greece politics for a very long time.
I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit, because I think we're going to be about an hour and a half today. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to go at a measured pace. We've got one from Grenada.
Maurice Bishop.
We've got one from Guyana, and this guy's interesting. It's Forbes Burnham. And
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Say what you had to say. I just think it's interesting. He was a prime minister for 17 years and then president for 6 more.
Because he was installed by the CIA. He is the guy, when British first gave Guyana their freedom, the guy that was actually elected, Jedi, however you say his name, Jedi, he kept getting elected, and the CIA and the British MI6 kept going, no, he can't be in charge. And so then they dissolved the government. They did that twice, and then he still got elected, and they overthrew him. And they installed Burnham. And Burnham was basically a dictator during that entire first part of his presidency. And they did the exact same thing. They had the hit squads, all of that crap.
And if everybody wants to know some more history of Guyana, go to my Twitter homepage, and it's my linked post. And it really talks about that. It's a great little dig I did, I think. So go check it out, people. Nice addition to the conversation, Colonel, as always. We've got one from India, one from Israel, who was Moshe Sharett, who's the prime minister from 1953 to 1955. Nothing exciting happened in Israel during those years, did it, Colonel?
No, not at all. Totally boring.
We got one from Italy, 2 from Jamaica. Stop me if you want to talk about anything.
Okay. Well,
3.
Michael Manley is important because that's another CIA deal. So keep going.
But that's Jamaica?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 3 from Japan, including Takahashi Korikiyo, who was the prime minister from 1920 to 1922 and in 1932. This is while Japan is industrializing and becoming a first world military power, their rise. That was under a alumni of the London School of Economics. I got one from Kenya, who's Jomo Kenyatta, 1964 to 78. 15 years in power. Think he's a dictator?
Well, he's also very important because he was, his name comes up a lot in CIA documents of them launching activity out of Kenya.
Well, we had one from Libya, one Saif al-Islam Gaddafi. And he was pretty much the figurehead president of Libya. London School of Economics got in a lot of trouble by having a Gaddafi there, because they'd received a 1.5 billion pound donation, 1.5 million pound donation from Gaddafi's family. And the students at the London School of Economics, thinking that because they bought what the media told them about that Gaddafi had to be killed, and so they could turn Libya into a third world slave market, they made a big stir and actually forced the resignation over the director of London School of Economics. Nice student activism. But that was Gaddafi. One from Malaysia. They was an elected monarch, a guy by the name of Tuanku Jafar. It's an elected monarch for 5 years. I'm not sure how that works. 3 from Mauritius, 1 from Nepal, 1 Nigerian, probably a prince, 1 from Panama, 2 from Peru, 2 from Poland, including 1 who was the prime minister of the government in exile during the Cold War, 1 from Sierra Leone, 2 from Singapore, including current President Tharman Shanmugaratnam. Too many syllables, can't do it. The current president. Yeah, I think it's like 6 syllables. That's way more than I can do. 1 from St. Lucia, one of my favorite islands. 2 from Taiwan, including the current president, Tsai Ing-wen. That's interesting because London School of Economics is all part of the One World Government movement, and Taiwan is supposed to be fiercely independent. 1 from Thailand, 1 from the island of Togo, and we've got 2 from the United Kingdom, and I want to talk about one of them. Mr. Clement Attlee, who was the prime minister from 1945 to 1951. Mm-hmm. He was the head of the Labour Party from 1935 to 1955, and the first, he was the longest serving Labour leader, and I think he was the very first prime minister from Labour. 1945, the United Kingdom is almost bankrupt. World War II has just devastated it, and Attlee goes out there and promises all kinds of free stuff. He campaigned, he was aiming for full employment. They called it a mixed economy and a greatly enlarged system of social services. When they say mixed economy, what they mean is private businesses and nationalized government services, which isn't that different than fascism. I mean, it isn't. This is all based on something called the Beveridge Report. William Beveridge wrote a report in 1942 about social insurance and allied services, which promised rewards for sacrifice. This is during the middle of the war. Well, who's William Beveridge? Well, he had collaborated on 1909 on something called the Poor Laws Minority Report with none other than Fabian founder Beatrice Webb. So here he is 33 years later, implementing the same ideas the Fabians were talking about all the way back in 1884, making its way into office post-World War II to rebuild England for the 20th century. Think the Fabians have won in England? The Fabians had installed William Beveridge as the director of the London School of Economics in 1919, and he would stay there till 1937. Think about all those people that went to the London School of Economics while this guy was the director. Now, of course, he was the guy who raised all the money from the Rockefeller Foundation, was Beveridge himself. Interestingly, he was never a member of the Labour Party. He was a liberal, but he was certainly influenced by the Fabians. So what did they teach? What did they implement? The welfare state, which is known as cradle to grave. The government will take care of you. That's one of Labor's biggest selling points, their motto. What did they create? Oh, I don't know, National Health Services in 1948, which gave them national tax-funded health care. They implemented the National Insurance Act of 1946, which expanded Social Security with unemployment benefits, pensions, sickness benefits, and family allowances. They built over 1 million new homes despite shortages in materials. They would nationalize the coal industry, electricity and gas, railways, inland transport, iron and steel. They nationalized the Bank of England, which used to be private, and they nationalized civil aviation. They implemented a progressive taxation. This is a Fabian, they're checking every box here.
Yes.
So now that we've seen it implemented, how did it work? How has it worked? The golden age of Reconstruction in Europe was considered 1950 to 1973, and that's before inflation slowed everyone down again. So the United Kingdom, once the third biggest economy in the world, saw its GDP grow of that period at 2.4%. Other countries in Europe, France was growing at 4%, West Germany at 5%, and Italy at 4.9%. It didn't work. The United Kingdom would keep slipping down the international rankings. Continental Europe caught up and then surpassed it. England's made a little bit of comeback. I think they're back up to number 5. But a lot of that has to do with socialist policies in France and Italy slowing them down.
Yes.
How about that national health services? The waiting list right now is over 7 million people to get their free health care that you can never get. Anyone from England like the NHS? In summary, all these benefits that they implemented expanded the cost of everything and didn't eliminate poverty in any way, shape, or form. We have now witnessed the Fabian dream implemented and played out in real time, and it has failed. But they're going to keep trying to implement it on us and say, oh, you just haven't done it right yet, or we haven't used the right economic theory, or your model is incorrect. They're going to keep trying. They'll never stop. And by the way, America is moving more and more to that direction every year. And,
yes.
Obamacare, you name it.
Yes.
How's the cost of healthcare gone since Obamacare was implemented? Straight up, everyone. Anybody like your Obamacare? Yeah. Social Security is going to run out of money. Medicare is so full of fraud. It's going to run out anyway.
The whole idea, as you look across the field, which we've said repeatedly, is to break the system so that they can build back better into their socialist utopia, knowing that it doesn't work as well. But that is the whole thing, is to bring the system down. And that's why when you say, how did it work out for the British, it worked out great for the Fabian model to bring it all crashing down. But this and there, you can see this. You just went through that extensive list of it being spread around the world. And that's just one aspect of it. That's not all of the Rhodes Scholars and all of the other people that we've talked about that's all brainwashed into this Fabian mindset. But as it permeates around the world, their whole agenda was to bring everything that's first world down while leaving the third world down so that they can eliminate the sovereign borders. And oh, by the way, as they've brought these things down, they've opened the borders that allows all of that mixture so that at the end of the day, they have a one world system without sovereign borders. And they have by default did exactly what they wanted to do.
And remember, these are the eugenicists people that want us all dead. Just a little reminder.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, I want to make a comment in the chat, Rob. I don't like a private central bank or a public central bank. I don't like central banks.
Yeah.
Money. There's a much better way to create money than to have a central banker, and it reduces the chance of government corruption quite a bit once you get it out of there, or private bank corruption as well. So I'm anti-central bank in total. There was a really famous debate that happened between the London School of Economics and Cambridge, and this is right after the Great Depression had kicked in. And the London School of Economics, Frederick Hayek, was debating Cambridge apostle John Maynard Keynes on which policies should we implement to get out of the Great Depression. We are going to so we have an Austrian theory economist versus a Keynesian economist. One's big spending, the other's free market. We're actually going to talk about that debate next week. And that's going to segue into, when I say Cambridge apostle, the Renee on Twitter had stumbled upon the apostles. This is a secret society from Cambridge that we're going to go into a little bit of depth for, because this is a can of worms. It's fun. And you're going to see the same darn patterns over and over again. So that's next week's show. So we're going to start out with some economic geekery and then get into some secret societies. Anything else you want to add on our London School of Economics?
So I want to close with a blurb, because Blair, Tony Blair, is a Fabian as well. As was, I don't know if you know this, but the London's Mayor Khan, Sadiq, Khan, he's a Fabian. He was actually in charge of the Fabian. He was the chair of the Fabian Society at one point.
Did not know. I haven't done my modern day Fabian research yet. So
one of the things that was called out when he got elected as mayor, there was a whole big article that was written about him being a Fabian and being a socialist. In that article, it talked about the society published both Tony Blair's seminal pamphlet on the Third Way and Lionel Jospin's philosophy of the active state from Tony Blair's article pamphlet on the Third State. This is a quote, or Third Way. And for those of you who don't know, that is what is the middle ground. So you have the Fabians on one side, you have the Milners on the other side. So you've got the proverbial left and right. And then the middle ground is called the Third Way. This is a quote. The Third Way stands for a modernized social democracy, passionate in its commitment to social justice and the goals of the center left. It is founded on the values which have guided progressive politics for more than a century: democracy, liberty, justice, mutual obligation, and internationalism. It draws vitality from using the two great streams of left of center thought, democratic socialism and liberals, whose divorce this century did so much to weaken progressive politics across the West. Liberals asserted the primacy of individual liberty in the market economy. Social democrats promoted social justice and the state as its main agent. That was written in 1998 by Tony Blair.
Nice. Okay, I got one more thing to show you.
Okay.
I had my AI research bot put together a timeline of notable London School of Economics alumni who moved into power. And what I wanted to show you was you had a few in the teens and the 20s, right? Not too many. 1930s, you got one. Pretty neat graphics, huh?
Mm-hmm.
They were in the 30s, in the Depression era, caused by a bunch of economists and central bankers. Then we get to the 40s, and all of a sudden in the 50s, and we have an explosion of London School of Economics and other people that are famous. Wonder what happened. Who won World War II after all? Yeah. In the 60s. And it's not because they're just had more students, people. This is infiltration of all of our institutions. And here we are today. Like the graphics?
Yeah, I do. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it took my robot about 20 minutes to do all this. I don't even think that. It took me longer to type out the instructions than it did for it to calculate it.
You gotta love it.
And it'll be ready for, this thing is so close to being live with a full dashboard and interactive. I may even have it for next week. I don't know.
Cool.
They don't give me the keys to it until it's 100% ready yet.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, well, gotta get your training wheels off first before they let you drive the big car, right? So how do you like our? So
you're gonna have to ship one of the trainers down here to me if I'm ever gonna get out of the training wheels.
I think you do. I think you're holding your own pretty well. So what do you think about our beavers today? We did a show about beavers.
They suck, just like the Oregon beavers do.
Yeah, but they don't totally suck because they're not completely devoid of purpose. It's just they distort.
No, they have a purpose. It's just an evil purpose.
Yeah, but they had Hayek, and that Hayek's one of the best authors in school. Yeah.
You can't have 1,000 bad guys and one good guy and say it's a good thing. Sorry.
All right.
I'm going with the odds.
I'll cede the point on that one. But it's just so to me, it's just, you think about how much they've infiltrated everything. And the technocrats are already in position. They just haven't pulled the trigger on creating their one world government. They're so close. We see them. You look behind every nook and cranny in government, business, and they're there. And that's why it's such a big deal to stop this whole climate scare, and why that's reversed, and why it's a big deal. But London School of Economics is still beating that drum.
But I think that had everything to do with COVID. I think COVID was their vehicle to do that. And because of Trump beating Hillary, they had to speed that up so that they didn't get reelected and totally wreck their system. I honestly believe that. I think COVID was the tool in the shed to take out, to devastate the entire world, and then roll this whole thing out.
Yeah, I'm in bed with that. Is a plausible theory. I've been saying that for years. That's been out there. I think Brian Cates might have been one of the first ones to write about that way back in the day. That's entirely possible. And of course,
don't tell him. I'm just teasing.
I give him credit where it's due.
Me too.
Then they had to create a Russiagate to stop Trump, and then they did the Mueller. Then they gave us COVID to cover up the Russiagate because Trump was almost there. Then they stole the election to cover up for all of that. First of all, they stole the election, gave it to Trump. COVID, then the election, then they did January 6th to cover up the stolen election, and it's just on and on and on. It's all one big cover up for the next, and it's all tied together. Just worried about what they're going to do once Trump is gone. That's why the midterms are so darn important.
Yeah. I wanted to check something out because I had thought originally that one of the first labor prime ministers happened not that long after the London School of Economics. He obviously wasn't a London School of Economics graduate, but he was a Labor Party. I think, I just found it here. McDonald. McDonald was the first Labor Party. Fabian says he started serving in 1924.
Okay.
So just wanted to correct that. But because I thought it was weird that they had a new political party and came to power so quick. I remember reading that in the Fabian Freeway. That just seems so odd to me because usually it takes decades, you know what I mean, to grow a political party and then actually be put in power. But not if you've been working on it behind the scenes and infiltrating all the levers. But anyway.
Very good. So we've got next week's show planned, and I think after that we'll show how Fabian jumped the Atlantic, and then we'll start going through the 20th century Fabians, both in America and in Europe. And
okay.
That'll take us a couple of weeks, and then I guess where do we want to put Pilgrim Society? Do we want to do that in 2 weeks?
We probably need to do it right after this because it's the same principle. It starts in the UK and jumps over. It probably just a show or two. Probably go through the prominent ones on the British side and then their corresponding ones on the American side, just to show that consistency. Because what we're developing here is a pattern. These things get hatched in the UK and immediately within generally 12 months deployed into the United States.
It's interesting about that. We've demonstrated how these, British institutions combined with the American institutions, and they are really, the puppet masters behind the world. And then we got to go out there and deal with everyone saying, no, the Jews are on the world. And there wasn't a darn Jewish name mentioned today that I can recall. And,
right.
So it's,
maybe the Israeli prime minister that went to the London School of Economics.
That's probably true. Yeah, that's a pretty good bet. I go with the odds on that. But, we're showing is it's a globalized system, and it's not Jewish, it's not Muslim, it's not Catholic. It's
everybody.
It's the elite. It's what I call the shadow state or the international syndicate.
Yes.
It is not limited to any one tribe, people, whatever. They're everywhere. Right. All those alumni all over the world. They're they owe their allegiance to the London School of Economics, Fabianism, this globalist thing, climate change. That's where their allegiance is, not to one tiny country in the Middle East. Sorry. And these are the people that, you know, are pulling the strings all over the world, whether it be United Nations, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, European Union, you name it. These technocrats that have been educated in our finest schools are the ones that are in power.
And understand, that's why I mentioned that library and these tracks and everything. Every ounce of information that is produced in the agendas by the London School of Economics and the Fabians in general is pushed into this massive network. They flood them with information of keeping them updated on what the next agenda is. So to Warhamster's point, at the beginning of the green push, all of that information, they have this network around the world. You can look at the Starlink network around the earth and imagine those are all Fabians, and they're all tied together and they transmit to each other both sideways and horizontally.
And they speak in a code of this language, and a lot of that code comes from the London School of Economics, these theories. Yeah, and they espouse the theories, and you know you're with a fellow traveler. That's what they do.
And this conduit is constantly pushing out this information. And when they land on a new one, whether it's the eugenicist theme or the climate change theme or, you know, whatever, their talking points are all handed to them through this network.
And the think tanks and the universities, and it is a different language. And obviously we don't speak it. We understand it because we hear it all around us and we see all this woke stuff, but, you know, they know it. They know themselves, you know, I don't know, what's the thing in the Bible? You will know me by my whatever. They know each other by their words. And it's almost like a secret handshake. It's almost like a giant secret society. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us here on another edition of Secret Societies, Operation Gladio, and Fabian Society, London School of Economics.
Go Beavers.
Go Beavers. Take care,
Cheers,
everybody.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for the great chat.